Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
on Pulse 95.
This Tuesday doesn't feel like a Tuesday at all.
No, this is the first time you played this bed. And
I just made it last night.
I really, really like it. It doesn't feel like a Tuesday. You're right. It's not even. It doesn't even feel like middle of the week. I feel like.
Oh no.
Because on Sunday we had a bit of a hiccup, so it doesn't feel like we went through Sunday and Monday.
And the fact that I had the flu last week just makes me feel just very weird now that I came back to work. I haven't been at work like physically for an entire week, and usually you know how you take time off, but then when you come back to work, it feels somewhat natural. You just go back to your normal routine. But the whole me getting the cold the entire week and then the weird hiccups here and there, and I come back and I was like, when I came into the parking lot, you know how when you come in, you have to use your card for the barrier to open, right?
Yeah.
And I just, for a moment, I was like, what am I supposed to do here by the barrier? What? I need to do something, right?
It's one of those weird feelings, I know. Like when you walk into a room, it's like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And then you walk out, and then you remember, and it's like, oh, let me go back.
Exactly. And it's just here was amplified even more. It was a whole, somewhat a bit of a panic. I was like, no, I have to use the card, right? But where is my card? Where is the card? What is the card? Do I even have a card? And the card is like in a safe place where I always put it every single time. So I could just reach out and take it out. But I was like, what card? Have I ever gotten a card in my life? What is happening here? So it was just a weird moment an hour ago. But here we are, back here at the Afternoon Karak. We are how many days away? We are 16 days away.
Oh my God.
From 2021. Boy, I hope everybody's ready for whatever 2021 has to throw at us. But I feel optimistic. I'm going to keep on feeling optimistic.
Yeah.
I mean, for the rest of my life. I mean, there's only so much you can do about what's happening in life. And I'm a big believer that a lot of things in life, the weird coincidences and the accidental things, usually end up so good and they impact my life positively. And even the bad things that happen to you, they are just part of you. They are who you are.
Yeah.
And they just add to your character. Which is why I'm like, let's be positive. Let's see what 2021 brings us.
Let's hope for better days. And in the meantime, be sure to tune in for the Afternoon Karak. We have tons of discussion. Starting off with the Microsoft Wire. They've released a safety sort of principle, but one that actually has an interesting collaboration with other gaming companies such as Nintendo and PlayStation. It seems like the trio are coming together in a really...
Sort of a PSA.
Yeah, something like that.
It's very cool to see them collaborating and whatnot. We do also have a celebration, and also there's another celebration that I feel like we missed out on this December. We usually do it every December, well, since last year, and it is an homage to December.
Pulse 95.
The gaming industry is a very competitive environment with the biggest console makers out there, the Xbox, the PlayStation, Nintendo, all trying to sell their experience a certain way, whether it's exclusivity, whether it's accessibility, or Nintendo in its own little world. They have a little bit of everything for everyone, but there is still that competition. However, in a joint statement that was released by Microsoft's Xbox Wire, they've just released a sort of like a commitment to safer gaming for the future for players. And the three principles as follow is prevention, which is empower players and parents to understand and control gaming experience.
Yeah.
Second principle is partnership. We commit to partnering with industry regulators, law enforcement, and our communities to advance user safety. And the final principle is responsibility, which is we hold ourselves accountable for making our platforms as safe as possible for all players.
This is super important, that it just shows that they are quite aware of what's going on in their communities, because weirdly enough, a lot of gamers, despite the many headlines across, lots of news places or within the community itself, there are a lot of them that are in denial about their responsibility towards each other. A lot of them believe that, oh no, nothing has ever happened here. There's no harassment, or this person deserves it. When in reality, nobody deserves anything. Just be nice to each other. Again, for some reason, the concept of being nice to each other is foreign and difficult for a lot of people, for God knows what reason. But at the same time, I think this is very, very important that they're saying that, hey, we are watching you guys and we're fully aware. And they actually did say that they are going to comply with local laws. What basically that means is that if something happens, like wherever in the world, and that certain country has a specific law that would be against this sort of behavior, they are going to comply and will be against the perpetrator, which is, again, incredibly important, a strong statement. I mean, in the UAE, we've got a lot of various sort of internet laws, against internet abuse or internet discrimination, etc., etc. So this is them saying that if something happens, for example, in the UAE, and we know the laws in the UAE would force us to comply, we will gladly comply. It's not like they're saying, oh, we're going to be forced to it. We are gladly going to be complying, and we are going to hold you all accountable. And it's important to be aware of the small children who are playing, because it's supposed to be a safe space for a lot of people.
Yes.
Whether you're playing, M-rated games or E-rated games, it's supposed to be a place for everybody.
Exactly. Another perspective I have on this is the fact that, for this whole joint liability between all these companies, I think in a way it's really good that they all are on the same level in terms of policies. But it also makes me think is that are they sort of setting up the foundation for, a more accessible cross-play features that are in the future? Is PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox going to be more cross-play friendly?
Maybe.
And in a way, they're kind of prepping up those policies from now so that future games, hopefully next-gen games now that we have, could adhere to those policies as they bring in a more accessible cross-play experience.
Could be, but it's at the very least, at the very base of it, it's just them going like, this is a whole community thing, and we're going to set our differences aside. We're going to, hold hands and join forces to tell you that this is where we stand. And it's not like, oh, the PlayStation community is incredibly toxic, but not the Xbox community. We're better over there. No, they're just fully aware that there's toxicity in all communities.
They'll hold accountable for it.
Exactly, going to be held accountable for it. And that is super important. And it might seem like it's just, virtue signaling, like, oh, look at us, we're going to say this. But it feels like it's very genuine here. I feel like there is sort of them saying we are serious about it.
Yeah.
And that's all that I believe, that all we need and want is for those companies to be very serious about those things.
Definitely, and hopefully in the near future, we get to see even more interesting policies that are gamer-friendly, user-friendly. As we as gamers, it's a priority, I think, for all companies to try to keep them in our platforms without having us pushed away by the toxicity or harassment or cyber attacks.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Chris Pine and Dungeons and Dragons. He could be part of a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up next right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Pulse 95.
As someone who's slowly going into the tabletop gaming culture, board games and card games and all, there's always that dreadful feeling of Dungeons and Dragons. And
what do you mean dreadful?
It's just, I feel like I'm going to be really overwhelmed by it because
that's why you find a very good dungeon master.
Yeah.
And they can just, take the reins. And then eventually, if you're feeling that you're the type who is incredibly imaginative and can, make up stuff on your feet, then that would be, your calling to become the next dungeon master. I believe there is a community here in Sharjah. Am I correct?
Really? I'm not entirely sure.
I vaguely know that. I think so.
I follow a Facebook page called the Board Gamers of UAE, but I'm not sure if any of them are dungeon masters.
Let me tell you, I believe in the American University of Sharjah, there is Frank's Tabletop community, and they usually get together to play Dungeons and Dragons. I haven't seen or heard from them for a while, but I hope
are
that they're...
alumni included?
Am I talking about me? Maybe, why not? Sure.
U.S. alumni?
All alumni, I'm guessing. I think they're very welcoming, of course, because it's all about, the community and whatnot. But as about this piece of news, now this is not fully confirmed. This is only, it was posted by The Hollywood Reporter, which we believe is probably true. And according to them, Chris Pine has been cast in a Dungeons and Dragons movie. And we have no idea what the premise of the movie is. What's going on there? What is he going to play? Who is he going to play? We have no idea, but my guess, it's a paladin. He's going to play a paladin.
You're going from there. Okay, interesting.
It would be nice to see him as a barbarian. That would be super cool, but I'm guessing it's a paladin.
What if a bard, you know?
Oh, I would love that. Have you watched Into the Woods? The musical?
Yes, I have. The Disney one.
Yeah, do you remember him when he was singing as a prince?
Yes.
He would be a perfect bard. You know what? Chris Pine as the bard. I'm down for that.
All right. The only thing I could actually take from this is Jonathan Goldstein, who actually helmed the movie Game Night, which was all about board games, but with a dark twist to it.
Yeah.
So it seems like they may have picked the right director for it, but how he's going to take this movie, some people could be worried that it's one of those things where a group of guys are playing.
Oh, yeah,
people are playing a Dungeon Dragon, and then they teleported into the world.
Yeah, no.
Like an isekai thing.
Like, what's it called? What's that
Jumanji.
one? Jumanji, yes.
The new one, the new Jumanji.
The new Jumanji. Honestly, I hope that they do not pretend it's a board game of any sort.
Or just go into the world itself.
Exactly. Just go right into it and just have the same roles, because that's the essence of Dungeons and Dragons, and that's it. And just have a whole story that's like that. I do not really want to see people outside playing the board game. I am very interested to see where they're going to take the story, but at the same time, that would be the least favorable option. Just like you said, we'd prefer just for them to just straight up give us a story within a Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of story, because I know you and I are big fans of epic fantasies, so it would be really, really cool if they do that. If we get any news, we're gonna report it. But as for now, we're gonna leave you with some Kali Uchis and the sports headlines. So stay tuned for that. We've got some DC news coming up next, and also some Marvel news. Stay tuned.
This is Pulse 95.
I know it's been a crazy week when we were highlighting all of the Marvel announcements from the Disney Investors 2020, but we got to give a little spotlight to DC as well.
Yes.
They're working on their own little developments. I know we won't be getting any updates, like big updates, until the DC fandom, which is probably in August.
And we already did get DC fandom earlier in the year, halfway through the year. So this was sort of Marvel's moment, even though, to be honest, Marvel is they're very generous with their rumors and things happening here and there. So let's give some time for DC, especially this announcement.
Yeah, it definitely merits just sort of talking about it, because right now, just from Deadline, there's reports that Quintessa Swindle is going to be joining DC's Black Adam, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's movie, and she's going to be playing as a superhero named Cyclone, aka Maxine Hunkle. Okay, so just take hunk and then put uncle in it. And you're
Honestly, it does look like a hunk, to be honest. She looks amazing.
Yeah, from the concept arts and the comics as well.
Yes, I mean, apparently she is a very new character. So it's very interesting to see that both DC and also Marvel take on this thing where they're including new characters. Not saying that new characters are not important, but more often than not, it would be the, I'd say, logical direction for them to go for well-known big characters. But then that's how Marvel started up, right? They started up by the MCU, not Marvel. The MCU started up by picking some names that are not as big as Spider-Man. And we've seen DC do the thing where they repeatedly do a Batman movie, one after the other. So it's important for them to go towards that direction with Black Adam. And now we have Cyclone. So I'm really excited to see her, even though, again, I haven't really watched, what's it called? What is it? Shazam? I haven't watched it yet.
Really?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's one of the better ones. Better DC films.
I already know that, to be honest. It's well known that it's one of the better DCEU or DC movies by Warner Brothers, simply because obviously Warner Brothers kicked off on the wrong foot there, maybe with some of their DCEU movies, and that's probably what has always stopped me from going in that direction. But now that I'm seeing some interesting characters like these, I'm super interested.
All we know actually about Cyclone is she's sort of like an alternative to Hawkgirl, because Hawkgirl is part of the Justice League, but she's not a character that's been still introduced in the DCEU. Mm-hmm. Some of her powers have to do with wind manipulation.
Cool.
And something like Storm from X-Men.
That's exactly what I thought of when I saw Cyclone, and even just you know how usually Marvel and DC have similar characters that would be their opposites, or like, for example, we've got Batman and then we've got Iron Man.
They
Or
try
kind
to
of the same.
give it a different tweak to
Small
it. Yeah.
tweaks here and there. Like even Hawk Girl, and then we've got Kate Bishop. They're kind of the same, more or less kind of the same. So I love the fact that when I saw Cyclone, I'm like, she gives me Storm vibes. And the fact that they picked an African-American woman to play her as well is also enforcing those Storm vibes. But at the same time, you cannot, pit them against each other.
Exactly.
You can't go like, oh, Storm is probably better, Cyclone sucks, she's new. Or no, Cyclone is a new, fresh take on Storm. They're their own characters, and we can appreciate them both separately.
Exactly. This is the nerds talking, we can tell the difference. So I really like this little update we get from Black Adams. We know it's still in development, and we won't be hearing about this until later 2021. She is going to act as an air support, but is it for Shazam or is it Black Adam? Because we know Black Adam is a bit of a supervillain.
Yeah.
But are they going to do a bit of a character arc difference? I'm not
Maybe.
sure.
We don't know.
They might take a lot from the comics, but a lot of it can come from their own personal creative imagination.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we move on to a Marvel rumor. We're going to be talking about Carnage. If you guys remember, back in, which movie was it? It was, how could I forget
Venom?
the movie? Venom, yes. Best movie ever. Venom, back there at the end of the scene, we got a sneak peek.
The post-credit scene, yeah.
Post-credit scene of Carnage. What is happening there? We might have a small hint as to what's going on in that movie. Stay tuned for that and much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Speculation, gossip, or hoax. Rumor has it
that Sony is preparing a gory R-rated Carnage movie.
Mikey likey. Finally. I think the last R-rated superhero film was Deadpool, and people really liked that. And I think you can make it work.
Wait, Venom wasn't R-rated?
No, it wasn't. It was PG-13.
Really?
Yes, and it actually made a lot of people upset. It's one of the reasons why the movie wasn't so...
Don't say that.
No, it was good. It was
that.
good, but it could never go to the point where... Because Venom is, that story arc at least, and that symbiote is not family friendly, that's for sure. So if you're really going to try to adapt that true storyline, you're going to have to go beyond the PG-13. And I think it's also the same with Carnage, because Carnage is even worse than Venom himself.
Yeah.
Because it's a symbiote that bonds with a psychotic killer, serial killer, in a jail cell. So you can imagine, a serial killer and a powerful symbiote coming together. You're obviously going to have a fully destructive character that really needs to shine at an R-rated movie instead of a PG-13. And I really, it's still a rumor, but if it does happen, I really can imagine this movie being absolutely great.
I agree with you.
For contextual appropriate reasons.
I agree with you totally. Because even though Venom is very near and dear to my heart, it's one of those movies that even though a lot of people did not, wasn't critically acclaimed, and you can't easily admit, even if you did enjoy it very much, that it could have been much better if the small tweaks here and there. But at the same time, I just feel very biased towards it. Like no matter what you tell me, I'm still gonna say Venom, best movie ever, regardless of what you tell me. You would have told me, but Aisha, I'm like, you're right, but Venom, best movie ever. And I agree with you that Carnage can also hit the whole actually best movie ever if they do stay very true to the context and they stay very true to what Carnage truly is.
Yeah.
Because I kind of miss that with Venom. We have to admit that.
Cheap cutaways, they cut away from like death scenes. There's no killing. And it's not like I condone it, but if you're going to tell a story that's this mature, you're going to have to get that rating.
Yes, that's a conversation in even video games when they're like, if you're going to have something sometimes there's
serious or mature.
Exactly. Even though sometimes there are things that are excessive violence for absolute no reason. No, what we're saying is that if violence is necessary to tell the story, if some mature content is necessary for this story, go ahead and include it. But otherwise, if it's not, go ahead and remove it. But in the context of Venom and Carnage, some of that is necessary. I mean, imagine if Deadpool was PG-13. It would have been just a disaster. It would have made absolutely no sense.
And I think it's because Deadpool that I think Sony and the producers are feeling convinced to take this to an R-rated.
Yes, absolutely.
But this is still a rumor. We're 6 months away from this movie coming out. It's hopefully around May time. But until then, we'll have to just wait and see.
Yes, we will wait and see. Next up, we're going to be talking about Netflix because they announced 7 new TV shows or collaborations from the United Kingdom, that is Britain. Very excited to talk about this one. There's a very weird one with Rowan Atkinson versus a bee. Stay tuned for that and much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Pulse 95.
I love it when Netflix announces their wide array and, lots of movies and TV shows they're working on, simply because it just shows you what Netflix actually has, because we've always complained that Netflix rarely speaks about a lot of things that they collaborate with or create or air on their platform for God knows what reason, because the moment you market specific shows and movies, a lot of people are going to watch them because some of them are very niche, but they're so good.
Yeah.
And those 7 TV shows that are going to be collaboration with a lot of UK writers and UK actors and actresses are just fantastic. I mean, one of them is called Cuckoo Song, and it's a gripping horror story apparently about 2 sisters who are warring against each other. But here's the twist. One sister is a human, one sister is a monster, and instantly I was like, sign me up for this. This is the kind of story that I used to read, back, my young adult novels when I was 14, 15, 16. And another story that is very similar is Half Bad, about the 16-year-old boy who also is the son of the world's most feared witch. And I was like, witches, monsters, and Rowan Atkinson, sign me up for this.
Yeah, he's having his own show called Man vs. Bee. It's a 10-episode series.
Yeah.
And the synopsis basically is that he's like a rich man living in his mansion, but he's at a war with a bee. It reminds me of a really old movie of these 2 guys trying to get rid of this mouse after they inherited their...
I remember that movie, yes.
Yeah.
And another TV show that also caught my eye is about teenage ghost hunters. Again, just look at the wide array and ideas and topics that Netflix is going to be dealing with. And I'm just a bit upset that this kind of went under the radar. I'm talking about the actual announcement because those TV shows are fantastic. And the nice thing about a lot of UK shows is that they are limited series, so it's very short, but then it wraps up very nicely. So I have high hopes for those 7 TV shows. Cannot wait until they are finally out on Netflix, and we need to review Man vs. Bee.
Definitely.
As soon as it's out. Coming up next is our final segment, Aisha and Mikhail Suggest. So stay tuned for that. I've got a good suggestion for you. It might be helpful.
It's almost 5 p.m.
That was Afternoon Karak. For dessert,
Aisha and Mikhail suggest.
We are back again with some interesting and super cool and super helpful suggestions today, courtesy of Mikhail.
All right, so I know you guys all have calendars. You like putting little markers and reminders for everyday tasks and errands. But one thing I want to recommend and just suggest for you guys is put reminders for anything that has an expiration. And it doesn't have to be only like service subscriptions, but also, for example, like your residency or your passport or car registration or your insurance, your health insurance.
Yeah.
Because those actually really matter and they impact your everyday life if you don't follow up on it. And, a year would pass and you kind of forget the exact expiration date. And usually you want to kind of deal with this weeks before the expiration hit.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's consequences. So my suggestion is to put really important reminders for any important, papers or things that you need to re-register in the coming month,
Yeah, and also I wanted to add that if you have your bank's application, more often than not, your bank also has a calendar. And in there, you can also put in various reminders, such as important payments, whether you're paying, for example, your Netflix subscription goes, I know it's automatic, but it's just a reminder. Or even the ones that are not automatic, the ones you need to remember, you can also add them over there as an, automated reminder on the calendar that every month, for example, on the 3rd, I need to pay this and that. So it's just basically utilize the various electronic calendars you have, whether it's on your phone, your laptop, through different applications. So make use of them because they're super, super helpful. And with that, we end our run here on the Afternoon Karak. But before we go, Mikhail kind of spoke about this yesterday, very briefly.
Yeah.
And that is cyberpunk.
Oh.
So we just wanted to give one last disclaimer from the both of us.
Yes.
Officially, that we cannot and will not review this game unfortunately, because of the whole entire thing that's been happening. And also, we have consoles. We have PlayStation 4s. So it's not going to work on our console. And until they fix it, which can happen within, the next 6 months, even though we do know that there is going to be an official patch or two, like very big ones coming out very soon, we still believe that we might need to wait a little bit longer than those patches, because even within those patches, they might find even bigger bugs or things that they have missed out here and there. So until the game is polished for current gen consoles, we cannot give a proper review of the game until then.
Exactly, and it wouldn't feel right, to be honest, to talk about it now, because I know it's a great game. It just suffers from a lot of technical issues, and once that gets polished, then we'll have a belated review right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Also, if somebody wants to set up their PC right here in the corner for us to experience Cyberpunk 2077,
Why not?
on their PC, if they're feeling it, text us 4215. It's Salat or two. Yes, our segment is ending here on the Afternoon Karak, but that's okay. Big House and Anna Schofield can read out your message and text us later on. So we will be within the loop and we'll give you a shout out, maybe give you some lemon cupcakes as a reward for sharing your PC and setting it up, because we don't know how to.
Thank you.
We don't know how to set up a PC. This is just an open invitation to all our lovely listeners. Text us 4215. It's a lot or do. Obviously, we're joking, or are we? God knows. Who knows? Stay tuned for all the fun and entertainment right here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.